Hey, it's Nikachu, your favorite MTG YouTuber, and today we got a little bit of exciting, spicy, unconfirmed news, and that is Modern Horizons 2 leaks. Wizards of the Coast is like a cheese, very specifically Swiss cheese, because of all the holes leaking information. So what's the latest spice? Let's take a look at it. So we have a post here by Prid3, who, according to the MTG finance community, is actually pretty accurate when it comes to leaks. Prid3 says Modern Horizons 2 will have Counterspell, Shardless Agent, Sanctum Prelate, and Solitary Confinement. Some new cards include a Planeswalker that counts as a 1/1 insect in every other zone, aka you can Green Sun Zenith it into play, a cycling Shriek Maw style evoke elementals where you exile a card from your hand to evoke them, and a new Restore Balance cycle, like basically uncastable suspend cards, ones with 0 mana. And Asmarano Mardika blah 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 is getting a card. She has no mana cost and has to be madnessed into play. Now, if you think some of those leaks seem crazy, there is a second source that can sort of confirm this. There was an old leak going back as far as November that revealed that Foretell would be a mechanic going in Kaldheim, and that Phyrexians were going to come back. Now, if we look at the Modern Horizons leaks, it may have a Planeswalker that counts as a 1/1 insect in every zone but the battlefield, so you can Court of Calling it out or reanimate it and the like. There might be a cycle of elementals with evoke, exile a card of your color. Again, a cycle of suspend cards with no mana cost, solitary confinement, and getting that crazy card. And the crazy card with the giant name is possible now because they're not giving this creature a mana cost, and you have to cast it via madness. This leak also predicted that Liliana is on Strixhaven and that Kaya is going to show up in one of these next few sets. I just want to emphasize none of these leaks are confirmed. It could all be BS, so please take it with a grain of salt. So let's go over some of the cards that were leaked by Prid3, and we'll start with Counterspell. Now, a lot of people are arguing that you just can't have Counterspell because it would wash away all the other counterspells that are being played in the metagame, whether it be like Mana Leak, Remand, Logic Knot. There's a lot of variety at 2 mana, and Counterspell will just completely undermine all of them. But I don't think that's really a problem. Like, Counterspell sees basically no play in Legacy, so where does Counterspell belong in Magic the Gathering? And this is one of the OG cards. We've seen this since Alpha and Beta. It's actually been reprinted a million times, and it just does not see any play whatsoever. If red gets Lightning Bolt, if green is allowed to have Birds of Paradise, I think blue should be allowed to have Counterspell. And if anyone wants that variety, those underpowered counterspells still be relevant in competitive Magic, you can find them in Pioneer. Next, there was Shardless Agent, and do you know what? In my opinion, because this card does not see that much play in Legacy like it used to, I think it is of the right power level for Modern. And of course, the dream to go Bloodbraid Elf, Cascade into the Shardless Agent into more value. You know what? I also think that Simic definitely needs a boost. It had no presence in Modern until the printing of Uro, and only because that card was so overwhelmingly powerful, you could build anything around it. I mean, so many different blue-green combinations were built around Uro, but Uro's banned now. How do we make Simic playable? I think cards like Shardless Agent are still cards in the right direction. Not to mention, if you want to go Sultai, if you want to go banned, you are still going to be weak to Blood Moon, which is a police in the Modern format, so there is going to be a disadvantage, but I still think that Shardless Agent is definitely within the power level of Modern. Another card predicted, Sanctum Prelate. For 3 mana, you got a 2/2 creature. It enters the battlefield, choose a number, and non-creature spells with converted mana cost equal to the chosen number can't be cast. Now, this does see play in the Death and Taxes variants in Legacy, and I think, again, it is within the power level of Modern. Now, will it actually see play in Modern Death and Taxes? Maybe, maybe not, because the 3 mana slot super choked. I mean, they got Flicker Wisp, they got Skyclave Apparition, they've got Archon of Emeria, but you know what? I think they could still find room for this thing. Definitely has that prison effect that you want for the Death and Taxes deck, but it doesn't hit the creature cards, just the non-creature cards. So you know what, that's going to be a beating for those prowess decks. And also Solitary Confinement, pretty solid enchantment. Skip your draw step, you can't be the target of spells or abilities, and prevent all damage that would be dealt to you. We're talking direct damage like Lightning Bolt, and also combat damage. What's the catch? At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice Solitary Confinement unless you discard a card from your hand. So you Enchantress decks, you better keep the gas coming, better keep drawing cards, because if you don't, this thing's going to be sacked and then you're in trouble. Now, Elfkid MTGO on Twitter posted 2 leaked pictures from Reddit. Now, one of them is the one that we just addressed by Prid3, but the other one, which I don't know where the source is a list of legacy playables that could be printed into Modern. Now, here's the thing. This list is Recruiter of the Guard, Council's Judgment, Chain Lightning, Stifle, Standstill, Hymn to Turok, Crop Rotation, Shardless Agent, Price of Progress, Cunning Wish, Wiredwood, Symbiote, Argothian Enchantress, Leovold, Emissary of Trust, Sanctum Prelate, and Sneak Attack. There's quite a bit of overlap between the cards on this list and the leaks represented by Prid3. And here's another thing. I was leaked a card a few weeks ago. I'm not gonna say what it was because 50% of the time it's like BS. But the other 50% of the time, it's dead right. And the card that I was leaked is on this list, which makes me believe that there might be some validity to all of these, despite how powerful they look. So one of those cards are Recruiter of the Guard, which is a 1/1 that basically tutors for a card with toughness 2 or less, reveals it, puts in your hand, and shuffle your library. Another card that maybe the Death and Taxes deck wants, because they literally can look for anything in their deck, whether it be Stoneforge Mystic, Mother of Runes, Flicker Wisp, Skyclave Apparition, would just be a random body on the battlefield. I mean, if you've got enough mana, you can just Recruiter of the Guard into another Recruiter of the Guard into what you want. It's basically something like Goblin Matron. So if Goblin Matron is safe enough for Modern, I think Recruiter of the Guard is well within the power level as well. Now, Council's Judgment is like one of the absolute best removal spells in the game. Will the Consul, starting with you, each player votes for a non-land permanent you don't control, exile each permanent with the most votes or tied for the most votes. So if I cast this and I name your Teferi Hero of Dominaria, you better also vote for it, or if you vote for anything else, it will also get exiled. Pretty powerful card, but still a little bit clunky. Modern is a clunky format. It definitely would see play, but it's gonna be a little bit slow against those super fast aggro decks. Lightning would be a huge upgrade to the prowess decks. They're already playing Lightning Bolt, and they would love to play with more of them. 1 mana, 3 damage to any target while buffing up your prowess creatures. Why not? A lot of people also said that maybe this could be an upgrade to burn decks. They might want to play it, although they would get weaker to Chalice of the Void on 1. It's also likely that this card would get slotted into the burn decks. They have access to more burn spells at a lower mana cost. Then there's Stifle, and a lot of people are like, you can't print Stifle into Modern. That's crazy talk. That's so OP. You're gonna prison the fetch lands. They're gonna be obsolete. Please. The fetch lands are barely seeing play right now. As the Horizon lands came out, they displaced fetch lands. As the fast lands came out, they displaced fetch lands. Fetch lands are actually way less common now today than they ever have been before in Modern. They still exist, but they're not in heavy doses that you're gonna like stifle, 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 stifle. And if you're a fetch land deck, you might just go turn 1 fetch land, crack immediately. But I think we need stifle in Modern. There's like almost no way to attack triggered abilities or activated abilities. Like, we have very few to no tools against that stuff. I mean, Primeval Titan's just running wild. I think we need this card at 1 mana to interact with the slew of ETB effects. Standstill. Now, this is a card that has traditionally, historically, seen play in Legacy. We're talking deep into the past because it's not what it used to be. Standstill used to be like a really good card before the Delver decks came around, before the more aggro decks got their foot on the battlefield. If no one does anything for the first few turns, you land a Standstill, I mean, you basically get to drag the game out, make as many land drops as you want until your opponent decides to crack the damn thing, and when they do, you're going to draw 3 cards. Whenever a player plays a spell, sacrifice Standstill. If you do, each of those player's opponents draws 3 cards. It has seen play in Merfolk, and it also has seen play in control decks. Control decks might want to utilize this. Basically, kill the only creature you have on the battlefield. I'll take my turn, stand still. Now, on an empty battlefield, I'll just keep making my land drops. Maybe play those creature lands like the Celestial Colonnade. Start attacking you, force you to do something, crack the standstill. Now I draw 3 cards. Standstill would be a very interesting card in the metagame. However, it is a liability in the late game. I've play tested this card in Legacy. It's a dead draw when you're behind. It's only good when you're ahead. So, I mean, if you go like turn 1 Ether Vial into Standstill, that's great. If you go turn 1 Pass, your opponent plays a 1-drop, you can't play Standstill. You always have to address what's on the battlefield. And then if you're behind and you top deck this, then it's really dead because you'd never want to play it when you're behind. Then there's Hymn to Turok. 2 black mana, sorcery, target player discards 2 cards at random. Now, I actually think this might be a fantastic addition to Modern because it will really punish all those decks that want to mulligan to the absolute best, sweetest hand. Oh yeah, Titan decks, you want to mulligan down to that sweet, delicious turn 3 Titan? Well, if you go down too low and I turn to him you won't have any cards left. On top of that, it's going to be random. If we discard your Titan, you are doomed. Same thing with the Tron decks. You mulligan down to 5 or even 4, you are super punished. Make you discard 2 of your Tron lands, and that could be lights out. So, pending the archetype, you might get really punished. And I think Modern is one of those formats that really abuses the London Mulligan because the interaction is so clunky. So if you've got the best, sweetest turn 3 kill hand or really impactful hand, you can really blow your opponent out. So at least Hymn to Turok will actually bring some balance against those decks that take greedy mulligans. Then there's Crop Rotation. I actually have no idea how you use this in Modern. Seriously, I have no idea. We don't have Dark Depths unbanned, so I actually think this is going to be pretty fair. I mean, if you let me know in the comments section below how to abuse the crap out of this. I mean, even in a Tron deck, I don't even think they want this because they just want to directly get into Tron. They don't want a Crop Rotation into Tron. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they could use it. Maybe they can use it in the late game, but I think they really want to be getting Tron on early in the game, not late. So I think this misses the mark there. Then there's Price of Progress. Wow, will this be an absolute beating to all those decks? I mean, this may not just go into a burn deck, it'll also go into the prowess decks, and will just fist all the non-basic land deck. I mean, Tron is doomed. Amulet could be doomed. Death Shadow, gotta be super careful now about their life total, because if you go too low to buff up your Death Shadow, you might also be in range of dying to a Price of Progress. There's a price to be paid with non-basic lands, so you better pay it. Cunning Wish is an instant speed tutor that lets you find instant cards from your sideboard, so it might actually be a playable piece, maybe in Storm, as a way of finding extra copies of Gifts Ungiven. I'm not sure how they would like to play this. Maybe Storm would want it, maybe they won't, I'm not sure. Otherwise, this is definitely a combo piece in some Modern deck. Then we have Wirewood Symbiote. For a single green, it's a 1/1 insect creature, so plays around Plague Engineer. Return an elf you control to its owner's hand. Untap target creature. Activate this ability only once each turn. It won't be overwhelmingly powerful like it is in Legacy because we do not have Glimpse of Nature legal. Glimpse of Nature is banned, and it says whenever you play a creature spell this turn, draw a card. And the idea is that with Wirewood Symbiote, you can return that creature back to your hand, replay it, draw 2 cards. You're not going to have that synergy in Modern, so I think it's going to be quite fair. Argothian Enchantress, 1/1 Shroud, so you can't target it with anything. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, draw a card. This would give a boost to those enchantment decks. If you have enough of these creatures in play, it combos pretty well with Solitary Confinement, because you have to discard a card during your upkeep. Well, that's no problem if you keep playing enchantments, drawing multiple cards a turn, so that you basically give your protection to yourself while you're developing your board. And next we have Leovold, another card that could help the Sultai Alliance. This card's very dangerous. It's a combination of like Narset, Parter of Veils, and Shaper's Sanctuary, because each opponent can't draw more than 1 card each turn. And also, whenever you or any permanent you control becomes the target of a spell or an ability, you draw a card. That is madness. Especially in a format like Modern that is super high on removal spells. This card would make a huge impact while coming at the cost of the Sultai colors because it's going to be kept in check by Blood Moon. And lastly, Sneak Attack, a card that historically has seen a lot of play in Legacy, in the Sneak and Show decks. The card would absolutely be very powerful in Modern, but I don't think it would be necessarily broken. We're talking about a 4-mana enchantment, so if you're trying to win by turn 5, that's well within the speed of Modern. I mean, even if you ritualed it out by turn 3 to kill on turn 4, there's nothing wrong with that. And the blue-red Through the Breach decks now finally have an extra combo piece to make their combo consistent. Well, that's our video for today. Let me know which of these cards you really want to see reprinted in the comment section below. Also, let me know if you think any of this is horseshit at all. What's real, what's fake? Because remember, none of this is confirmed. I love the Modern Horizons series, so don't forget to smash like for reprints, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel, or Price of Progress will dome you for 10 damage.